I'm Adrian, the cruise and travel guy. There's been a lot of chatter online about the end of P&O Cruises Australia, with many people saying that who cares, it was just another US-owned brand. But that's not just wrong, it's a complete misunderstanding of the history of cruising in Australia. P&O Cruises Australia wasn't just some throwaway name slapped on a few old ships in the year 2000. It was the continuation of a legacy that stretches back nearly 2 centuries, one that played a massive role in the birth of cruising as we know it. And with P&O Australia now a distant memory, it's time to set the record straight. The next time you're planning a cruise or holiday, head to my website first where you can search, compare, and book. The story of P&O in Australia begins long before the modern cruise industry. In fact, the Peninsular and Oriental Steam Navigation Company, better known as P&O, started life in England in 1837. It was the work of Brodie Wilcox, a shipbroker, Arthur Anderson, a sailor, and Captain Richard Bourne. Although its origins were both in passenger and mail transportation, it very quickly pivoted towards leisure cruising. P&O's first ever cruise happened in 1844 after Arthur Anderson saw an opportunity to offer more than just transportation. With his help, the company took the leap to offer leisure cruising for the first time ever, and to say it was a success would be putting it mildly. In Australia, long before the concept of a cruise even existed, P&O ships were already travelling between Britain and Australia carrying passengers, mail and cargo. These weren't just ships, these were lifelines connecting Australia to the rest of the world, and in turn they helped new Australians find their place in a new world. Then in 1932, something pretty remarkable happened that changed the shape of the local maritime industry forever. In 1932, P&O Strathaired set sail from Sydney on what was the first Australian leisure cruise. No overseas migration, no wartime deployments, no business trips, just Aussies enjoying a short getaway. It departed on December 23, 1932, carrying 1,100 passengers on a 7-day itinerary calling at Brisbane and Norfolk Island. And if you think cruising is popular today, well, that one sold out in just 1 day. This was one of the first modern cruising experiences anywhere in the world, and it happened right here in Australia. Before the Caribbean was the cruise capital of the world, before Miami was filled with mega ships, before Royal Caribbean, Norwegian or Carnival even existed, Australians were already taking pleasure cruises. So when people say P&O Cruises Australia was just another American cruise line, well, you can sit down. Fast forward to the 1970s and 80s, and P&O was the dominant name in cruising locally. If you were taking a cruise at that time, it was probably on P&O or Sitmar. I made a video previously that dives into the unique history that connects both Australia and the Sitmar line, and I've linked to it in the description below. P&O and Sitmar were two local iconic cruising stalwarts, particularly in that era, with the most famous ship of them all being the Fairstar, more colloquially known as Fairstar Fun Ship, as the G-rated version and the R-rated version, well, replace fun with another word that starts with F and you've got an idea. In 1988, P&O Group purchased Sitmar and its ships, including a bunch of recently built and still under construction ships, which you would more likely know as the Pacific Sky, Pacific Pearl, Pacific Jewel, and Pacific Dawn. These were all incredibly important ships for the local cruise industry and for what would become the basis and foundation for many Australians' first experience cruising, and they all had a connection to Sitmar. But by the late 90s, the cruise industry was changing. The P&O brand, at that time known as P&O Holidays Australia, had been running cruises for decades, but it was time for a new identity. In 2000, P&O Group separated all of its cruise ship operations. P&O Cruises Australia was officially born. The goal at that time was to give Australians their own cruise line. It fell under a new parent company called P&O Princess Cruises, which was headquartered in London. The company was made up of multiple cruise lines, including the UK-based P&O Cruises, Princess Cruises, and AIDA, among others. In 2003, P&O Princess Cruises merged with Carnival Corporation and became Carnival plc. For decades, P&O Cruises Australia was a brand tailored for Australians with a laid-back atmosphere on board, shorter cruises, and cruises that really took advantage of our local geography. They were designed around the way that we liked to travel, but P&O Cruises Australia was also the runt of the litter, meaning that they ran on a shoestring budget and with old metal. But the people at its core, both on land in Australia and on board its ships, made P&O Cruises Australia something very unique and special. Now, were they always perfect? No. They had their highs and they had their lows. But dismissing decades of history and an entire brand as just another American cruise line completely ignores the fact that this was something and a continuation of something far greater. And now here we are. P&O Cruises Australia is no more. After decades of history, the cruise line has been officially absorbed into Carnival Cruises. Some people won't care. Some will say it's all the same anyway. But for those of us who know the history, who've grown up with P&O as Australia's cruise line, who love cruising in part because of P&O, this is a moment worth acknowledging. Because now it's gone. That's it. A chapter of Australia's maritime history is complete. Carnival Adventure and Carnival Encounter will sail for Carnival Cruise Line commencing on Saturday 29th of March, and it'll be very interesting to see what the result is. Carnival have pretty much said that the experience will remain P&O, but there have been some changes, so I'll be getting on board before the first passenger cruise on board Adventure, and I'll bring to you those first details, so stay tuned to the channel for that. Stay tuned to Instagram and Facebook, where I will publish my up-to-date stories, and so you can see everything as it happens later this week, but obviously keep an eye out for a full video review. In the meantime, let me know in the comments, do you think the end of P&O Australia is something significant, or is this just another rebranding exercise? As always, thanks so much for watching. Head to my website when you want to book your next cruise or holiday, and give me a follow on Facebook and Instagram at The Cruise and Travel Guy. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Is this all right? Maybe. I don't know. It does look like it's fairly centered. Although its origins were in passenger and mail transport, it quickly pivoted towards cruising, leisure cruising, and passenger and mail transportation. P&O's first ever leisure cruise happened in 1844 after Arthur Anderson saw an opportunity to, but dismissing decades of history and an entire brand by what? But dismissing, oh my god. But dismissing a, oh my god. But dismissing the, oh my god.